a stranger in the wreckage. The night was cold. The desert wind howled like a whispering ghost through the rocky hills. Ethan pulled his coat tighter and checked his scanner again. It blinked. There was definitely something out there. Heat signature, small, not human, but alive. He adjusted the light on his shoulder and moved toward the canyon edge. Below him, hidden in the sand and stone, was a small wrecked metal torn apart, glowing faintly with alien blue light. The crash hadn't made a sound. Stealth tech. Maybe. Or it had happened long ago. But no. The scanner said the heap was fresh. Carefully, he slid down the rocks and approached the ship. It was no bigger than a small transport pod. Alien letters were burned into the side, ones he couldn't read. Smoke curled out of a cracked panel. Sparks danced around a broken wing. He heard a soft noise like a whimper. Ethan stopped. Then he saw her. Inside the pod, half covered in silver. Blankets was a girl. Not human. Not like anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered softly, almost pearl-like under the moonlight. Her hair was long, flowing, and white as snow. Glowing tattoos ran across her cheeks and arms, but her legs, they didn't move. She looked at him, eyes wide. Glowing blue, full of fear and something else. Recognition. Ethan held up his hands slowly. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said. "Can you understand me?" She blinked. No words came, but she didn't look away. Her fingers trembled as she reached toward him. Her hand touched her chest, then pointed to him, then back to her chest. "I don't know what you're saying," Ethan said softly, "but I'll help you." She tried to sit up and winced. A metal brace on her right leg sparked damaged. The other leg was wrapped tightly in some kind of black band. She fell back. Weak out without thinking, Ethan climbed into the wreck and gently picked her up. She was light. Too light. Like she hadn't eaten in days. She made no sound, but rested. Her head against his chest. "Who are you?" He whispered. She didn't answer. Back at his bunker, Ethan laid her on the couch. He wrapped her in soft blankets and gave her water. She drank slowly, as if it hurt. When she was done, she looked at him again, studying his face like it was important. Then she closed her eyes and slept. Ethan watched her breathe. Her chest rose and fell gently, and her hand stayed close to her heart. He didn't know who she was. But she wasn't just any alien. There was something royal in the way she moved, even when injured. The next morning, she was still asleep. Ethan sat at his workbench, looking at the strange metal parts he pulled from her wreck. Some kind of navigation crystal, advanced shielding core, and a small hologram disk. He tapped the disk. Blue light flickered to life in the air. A spinning planet appeared, one he didn't recognize. Around it, symbols danced, and in the center ... a crown. Ethan stared at it. "No way," he whispered. Was she royalty? Later that day, she woke. Her eyes opened slowly. When she saw Ethan, she didn't panic. Instead, she gave a weak smile. "You're safe," he said. "You crashed, but I brought you here." She nodded, just once. He brought her a datapad with translation software. She looked at it, then slowly typed, "Alira." He read the word. "Is that your name?" She nodded again. "Alira," he repeated. "I'm Ethan." She typed again, slowly. "Thank you, Ethan." That night, as the wind howled again outside, Alira stared at the stars through the small window. Her eyes were filled with sadness. But every time Ethan passed by her, she looked at him a little longer, like she knew him, like he mattered. Ethan didn't understand why, but something told him. This was just the beginning. The princess, who watched the stars, the days passed slowly. Alira still couldn't walk. Her legs remained weak, and the brace on her right side sparked whenever she moved too much. Ethan did his best to repair it, using parts from old drones and scrap tech. It wasn't perfect, but it helped her sit up without pain. Each morning, she woke before him. She would sit by the window, wrapped in blankets, staring up at the sky. Always the same direction. Always the same quiet sadness in her glowing blue eyes. Ethan noticed. "Looking for your home?" he asked one morning, handing her a warm drink. She took it with both hands and nodded. Then, after a moment, typed a word on the datapad. "Gone." He frowned. "Your home is gone?" She shook her head, then wrote again. "Not for me anymore." He didn't push further, but the questions grew inside him like fire. Who was she really? Why had she come to Earth? Why him? That night, while she slept, Ethan opened the hologram disk again. The spinning planet reappeared. The symbols floated around it like they were dancing. In the center, that same golden crown. Then something new happened. The projection shifted. A second figure appeared, an alien male with sharp features and a long robe. He raised a hand, and behind him stood Alira. She looked younger. Her back was straight, her eyes fierce, and she was walking. No brace. Ethan whispered, "She used to walk?" He watched as the figure beside her pointed to a throne and said something. Alira looked away. She refused. She pulled off a royal ring and dropped it on the ground. Then the projection ended. The next day, Ethan showed her the disk. She watched it quietly, her eyes locked on her past self. When it ended, she didn't speak. Instead, she slowly typed, "I was to be queen." He blinked. "You single quotes read a real princess." She nodded. "They wanted me to marry. I said no." "Why?" he asked. Her eyes softened. She hesitated, then typed, "They wanted my power, not me." Silence filled the room. Ethan didn't know what to say. He sat beside her and said gently, "Well, they lost something priceless." Alira looked at him for a long time, then smiled. That night, she asked for help walking. Not to escape, not to run. Just to stand under the stars. Ethan supported her gently as they moved outside. Her legs shook. Her hand clutched his arm tightly. But she stood barely under the sky she used to rule. This ... She whispered softly for the first time, her voice weak but beautiful. "Is better." Ethan was shocked. Her voice was soft like wind through leaves. He looked at her. "Better than a palace?" She nodded, then looked at him. He didn't know why, but he blushed. In that quiet night, one truth became clear to Ethan. She hadn't just come here by accident, was looking for something, or someone, and somehow, for some reason, she chose him. But why? Her broken crown. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about the moment Alira spoke, not through the datapad, not with gestures, but with her real voice, soft, warm, like the stars themselves had whispered to him. Is better. Better than a throne? Better than her planet? Why? The next morning, Ethan was already at his workbench. He wasn't just fixing things now. He was studying, learning. The alien tech from Fulm. Alira's ship was far beyond Earth's level, but it spoke a language he was starting to understand. Symbols of loyalty, unity, honor, marriage. He turned a silver ring in his hand. It was small, delicate, and glowing faintly. Alira's crown wasn't made of gold or diamonds. It was tech. Royal tech. And it was broken. Alira watched him quietly from the corner of the room. Her body was still weak, but her mind, her heart, were wide awake. When Ethan showed her the ring, her eyes dropped. "It's yours," he said gently. She nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. Then, using the datapad again, she wrote, "I broke it." He looked confused. Why? To escape the bond. He didn't understand. She typed again. It was meant for someone else. Ethan stared at her, suddenly feeling cold. Someone you were supposed to marry? Alira's fingers hesitated. Yes. A deal between houses? I refused. He swallowed. So they took your legs? Her gaze turned sharp. No, I was born like this. That's why they thought I'd obey. Ethan's chest tightened. She hadn't been weak. She had been expected to be weak, obedient, silent, but she wasn't. She was a storm in silence. At night, while Alira rested, Ethan stepped outside the bunker to think. The sky was full of stars again. Cold, beautiful, distant. He looked up and whispered, "Why me?" Then he heard her voice quiet, behind him. "Because you're not afraid of me." He turned, stunned. She stood at the doorway, barely holding the frame. Her legs trembled, but she was standing, alone. He ran to support her, but she raised a hand. "No," she whispered. "Let me." With slow, painful steps, she walked 2, then 3 into the cold night. Ethan caught her just before she fell, and in that moment, he felt her heart racing. "You're not just running," he said softly. "You're choosing." She looked up at him. Her eyes sparkled with something more than light. Hope. Inside. She typed again, this time carefully. "My people chose my path, but I want to choose my own." He nodded. "And what do you choose now?" She paused, then reached into her side pouch. Small device, round, golden, folded like a flower. She handed it to him. "This was my marriage token." He blinked. "Why give it to me?" Her answer was only one word. "Because I want it to be yours." The marriage pact. Ethan stared at the small golden token in his hand. It felt warm, almost alive. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. He had held alien tech before, but nothing like this. It wasn't just a machine. It was something personal, sacred. He looked at Alira, still sitting weakly, but her eyes were steady, waiting. "You want me to have this?" He asked again, slowly. She nodded. And then she did something she had never done before. She reached out and took his hand. Later, that night, she typed more words. This time, longer, slower, as if each word mattered deeply. "This token was created by my ancestors. It chooses a mate, not just for the body, for the soul." Ethan read it twice. She continued, "My family wanted to give it to a political partner, but it rejected him." His eyes widened. "It rejected someone?" "Yes, it didn't react. No glow, no bond." Ethan looked down at the token, still gently glowing in his hand. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She typed, "Because you saw me. Not the crown. Not the body. Me." He felt his heart beat faster. Her fingers hovered over the pad again. Then she added one more sentence. "And because I saw you, long before we ever met." That night, Alira showed him a hidden file from the device. It was a message. From her, but not recent. It had been recorded before she ever crashed on Earth. In a message, her voice was clearer, stronger. She spoke in her language, but the translation played beside it. "If I die, let this message find the one who made me believe again." A human named Ethan Gray, a soldier who saved his enemies, a man who repaired broken things, not just machines, but hearts. If he still lives, give him this token. I offer not a throne, but a choice. Marry me, not for power, but for peace. Ethan froze. He remembered now. Years ago, during the short tearing Orion War, he had disobeyed orders. He had saved an alien medic who had been injured. Female. Quiet, fragile. Her name was never given. It had been her. "Alira, you remember?" she asked, using her voice again, soft and cracked. He nodded slowly. "I do now. You were kind when you didn't need to be." "And you disappeared after the war," he said. "I was taken back, but not by my will." Ethan sat beside her. "And now you came all this way, risked your life, for me?" Alira didn't answer. Instead, she lifted her hand shaking and gently touched his face. It wasn't just royalty touching a human. It was a woman, reaching for the only man who saw her truth. Suddenly, warning lights flared red inside the bunker. Ethan jumped to his feet. "What the hell?" Alira's eyes widened in fear. They found her. Outside, a strange hum echoed across the rocky land. Dark shapes moved through the night, small, hovering drones. 3 ships, no lights, no mercy. Ethan looked at her. "Can you fight?" She shook her head. "But you can." He grabbed his old gear, dusty, worn, but still strong. Then Alira handed him one last item, a small metal cube. It lit up the moment he touched it. "What is this?" She answered in a whisper. "Part of me." Attack at dusk. The sun was sinking behind the mountains. A red-orange glow spread across the rocky wasteland. But the light did not bring peace. It brought shadows, and in those shadows, danger moved. 3 black ships hovered just beyond the hills. Silent. Watching. Inside Ethan's bunker, red lights flashed on the wall. Sensors screamed. The air was thick with pressure. Alira sat motionless, her body tense. "They've found me," she whispered. Ethan checked his weapon. It was old, but still deadly. He strapped on his shoulder guard and handed Alira a small pulse pistol. She pushed it away. "My aim is no longer true," she said. "But you still stand for both of us," Ethan hesitated. "I'm not a soldier anymore." She looked at him, calm, clear. "You never were a soldier. You were always a protector." Moments later, the sky cracked open with noise. Lead ship dropped down hard near the bunker. Dust and sand flew everywhere. The door slid open, and 4 armored figures stepped out. Their armor was black with red symbols, Alira's royal crest. Burned and twisted. Traders. Hunters. Not one of them held a scanner, and it pointed directly at the bunker entrance. "She's inside," the voice growled. "Bring her back dead or alive. The token must be returned." Ethan took position near the front hatch. His finger hovered over the trigger. He wasn't afraid. Not for himself. Only for her. Inside, Alira opened the glowing cube she had given him earlier. A soft pulse of energy surrounded the bunker. A shield. Weak, but enough to stop 1 or 2 blasts. "Just hold them back," she said. "I'll buy you time." "No," Ethan snapped. "We buy time for each other." The first attack came fast. A blast struck the outer wall, shaking the whole bunker. The shield flared blue. Ethan fired back through the opening 1 shot, then another. 2 enemies dropped, but 1 got close, too close. He slammed against the door, trying to break through. Ethan wrestled him down, but the attacker was strong. Claws scraped his armor. Teeth bared, then a soft beep. A pulse pistol fired. A clean hit. Ethan turned and saw Alira still sitting, arms stretched out, eyes glowing. "You said your aim was bad." He smiled. She smiled back. "It listens when my heart is loud." The other ship opened fire. The bunker's shield dropped to 20%. Alira handed Ethan something else. A marriage token. "Touch it. Now." "What?" "Hurry." He pressed his palm against the golden disk. In a flash, symbols danced in the air. Blue light wrapped around his body. A second skin of energy light armor formed on him. Royal armor. Bound by her blood. "This is from your ancestors?" He asked. "No," she said. "It's from my choice." He stood taller now, stronger. Faster. Ready. Ethan ran outside into the firelight of dusk. The final ship hovered low, ready to escape with her, but he wouldn't let them. He charged the enemy with speed they didn't expect. He fought like the stories of Earth's old warriors brave. Wild, unstoppable dot inside the bunker. Elira closed her eyes and whispered something ancient. A name, his name, and a promise. Let him live, and I will never run again. The attackers fell one by one. Smoke filled the air. The ships retreated, damaged. One final shot was fired toward the bunker. Ethan screamed, "No!" But the blast never landed. Elira had activated the shield one last time with her own energy. She collapsed to the floor, breathing heavy, her skin dim. He ran back inside, dropping beside her. "You're okay," he said, holding her face. Nodded slowly. Her voice was faint. "I'm tired, but I'm still yours." She walked toward me. The dust had settled. The sky was quiet now, burnt orange, turning slowly to blue. Broken pieces of enemy ships littered the desert. Sparks flickered from fallen drones. Silence returned to the land, except for the sound of soft breathing. Inside the bunker, Ethan sat beside Elira. His hand never left hers. She was alive, but barely. Her skin had dimmed, no longer glowing like before. Her energy had protected him, shielded the bunker, and saved both their lives. But it had also cost her strength. "You didn't have to," he whispered. "You should have saved yourself." She opened her eyes slowly. "I did." He stayed by her side for 2 days, feeding her, repairing her brace, recharging the royal token, hoping it could help her recover. But she slept most of the time, dreaming, and sometimes when she did wake, she looked at him like he was the dream. On the 3rd morning, Ethan was outside, watching the sky. The wind was calm. The stars had begun to fade. He whispered to himself, "She saved me, and I still don't know why." Then he heard something. Not the wind, footsteps, soft, bare, uneven. He turned, and there she was, Elira, standing, walking, step by step, her legs shaky, her body leaning against the stone wall, but walking toward him. A broken brace still clung to her right leg. Her left foot dragged slightly, but she didn't fall, and she didn't stop. Ethan ran forward, but she raised her hand. "No," she said, voice trembling. "Let me walk. I want you to see me like this." He froze. She took one more step, then another, and finally she reached him. "I'm not strong," she said. "Not like the stories." "You're stronger than any story I've heard," Ethan replied, voice low. She looked up at him. Her eyes were clear again, blue and bright, glowing faintly like a sunrise. "I didn't come to Earth to run," she whispered. "I came to find something real. Not duty, not power." Then, "What?" She reached into her side pouch and pulled out a small crystal orb. It lit up as she spoke. "I came to find love." The orb projected 2 figures, her and Ethan, standing beneath a glowing tree, the symbol of a bonding ceremony in her culture. Royal union. A marriage not for politics, but for choice. Ethan stepped closer. "And you're sure it's me?" She laughed softly. "I crossed the stars, escaped my world, gave up my throne, fought beside you, died almost twice." She leaned forward and touched her forehead to his. "I have never been more sure." Ethan reached for her hand. The orb hovered above them, and with one shared breath, the light from the orb wrapped around their bodies. Not a wedding in a palace, not a ceremony before. Millions. Just 2 souls. On Earth. Together. Later that night, Elira sat beside Ethan under the open sky. Her legs rested gently on a cushion, and her head leaned on his shoulder. "Do you think your people will accept this?" he asked. She smiled. "No, but I didn't ask for their permission." Far above them, in the stars, a distant royal court waited for her return. They would wait forever, because Elira had made her final choice. She didn't walk back to a crown. She walked into his life and stayed.